Welcome everybody. This is the SharePoint Patterns and Practices community call, and this is the general SharePoint Development Special Interest Group. That's what the SIG actually means in the title, so Special Interest Group. We have two of these special interest groups. One of them is for SharePoint Framework Development and JavaScript Development, and the other one is this one. And this is the SharePoint Framework one is really kind of a clear what we're talking there. This one is more generic, so we talk about site designs, we talk about themes, we talk about hub sites, we talk about PowerShell, we talk about provisioning and many other things in this call. Originally years ago they started as a extension to the monthly community call because we never had a time to actually go through all of the things in the monthly community call what we were planning to do. Now all of these calls are getting recorded. The recording will be available in the YouTube channel within 24 hours based on whenever the session actually was originally. Now, like mentioned, this is really around
as well as solutions around the sort of CSOM client-side, non-client side, excuse me. I'm so used to doing the client-side special interest group. So the CSOM, Flow, Power Apps, the maker type things, as well as the community demos for all those technologies are really the focus of this call. Two links down there at the bottom, aka.ms/SPPnP-community will take you to the Microsoft Tech community for all things SharePoint. So that'll be the SharePoint section there in the Tech community. And the bottom link there, spdev-docs, is the link to all the SharePoint documentation. So that's all the SharePoint documentation all up. So your WSP development, CSOM development, and as well you've got resources in there, not necessarily fully about Flow, but integrating with Flow and Power Apps and things like that as well. So moving on to, Face is back.
Yeah, I'm back. I just wanted to listen how you do the intro. I went for a refill of the coffee, so sorry for that. I didn't have time to do that. Unbelievable. So opportunities for participating within the community. First of all, we're looking into having community members to demonstrate potential samples, technologies, or a pattern. So just a note on this one, if you represent a company, if you have an existing thing which you don't want to share as a sample or a source code, that's actually absolutely fine as well, because we actually are looking into understanding how people, for example, use the PnP provisioning engine, how they use Flow, and getting ideas from the others in the community is super important. Now, if you are willing to share your sample, if you're willing to share your code as a reusable thing, or not necessarily a reusable thing, as a sample, you can contribute the code in the GitHub as well for others in the community. And then please provide also feedback by using the social media channels and issue list and everything else, so we know what is working and what is not working, and we're able to address that as soon as possible. Now, that was hopefully the only Thursday outage on the Skype. So I told you that's going to happen immediately when I start to call. Anyway, so today a few general slides and announcements related on SharePoint development. So a big one was the SharePoint framework release yesterday. So 1.6 is out. That is a really big release, and we're going to talk about that one slightly today. But this is not the SPFx call, so we're not going to deep dive on it. Now, and I forgot about getting rid of the hub or sub discussion. What this is? Well, that's interesting. So let me one more time double check that. Did I miss did I actually upload the completely wrong session? So let me check on the slides, and this is. I think we actually updated everything else except our channel. I do apologize on that, so that's a mistake on my end due to timing issues. So first of all, a few slides and general slides which I wanted to keep on these sessions every single time. Our documentation, so AKMSSP DevDocs, one SharePoint framework, the latest guidance is already out there, so 1.6 refresh is already available in the documentation. So we always push the documentation before the announcement blog posts are going live. So NPM packages, then the documentation, then the blog post. So all of the articles have been already updated to match SharePoint 1.6, SharePoint Framework 1.6. Now, the other thing what I always keep in here, which we are slightly behind of the schedule, is the issue list. So making sure that we are hearing your input around the issues and potential things, what's actually happening. Right now, as an example, I'm hearing noises in Twitter and in social media that people are suffering and having issues related on the Graph API usage after the 1.6. The most important thing is to go to this issue list and report with the screenshots and with details how to repro the issue, so we're able to actually then step in those steps into engineering, and our support engineers are able to help you. That's really always to ask. So go first on this issue list, then go to the social media, and then you can rant in the social media if you want to, but please let us know first, so we're able to help you as fast as possible. Now, before we actually, let me go forward on one slide. So here we go. So a few announcements. Before we actually go there, so one thing what I wanted to quickly mention, because Matti is actually asking that, so maybe you followed us the discussion pretty recently on the social media related on the mecha menu. So there was actually Katja found out that we had released this mecha menu capability for communication sites, and then it actually worked worldwide. Unfortunately, that was an accidental leakage of a feature capability, so that has been disabled. So just to clarify that on Matte's question. Now, other topics. So SharePoint Framework 1.6 is now available. 3 main topics in this one. And like I said, please give us feedback. If we run into any exceptions, if we run into any issues, please go to the SP Dev Docs issue list and let us know, and we can start investigating these things. Now, the number one thing is the native Microsoft Graph access. And on this one, there was some unfortunate changes which we needed to do. So as part of the dev preview, if you granted permissions for Microsoft Graph APIs, those permissions no longer apply. We were forced, due to technical reasons, to reconfigure the underlying Azure AD application, which has now a different name. So you need to actually re-grant the needed permissions for your Graph, for the web parts and functionalities which are used in Microsoft Graph. Now, it's unfortunate. That was the situation in dev preview. We always know that as part of the dev preview, we might have these kind of things. Now from this moment forward, we are in GA, so you don't actually have to re-grant the permissions after this one, or in the future when we're actually releasing a newer version. There's a question on what permissions do we need to grant? Well, the permissions what the web parts are asking. So inside of the SPPKG file, you're able to request the permissions what the functionality requires, and when you deploy those that SPPKG file to the tenant, that's when those permission requests are getting replicated on the admin UI, and then you need to grant those. So that's the right way of doing stuff. There's a question on Patrick Purklund. Are we supposed to grant permission to SharePoint Online client extensibility principal manually? Answer is no. If you go to the central admin, there is a central admin UI where you can actually manipulate the requests, the permission requests. So there is a tutorials on how this actually works in the official documentation. The second thing what we released is the securely accessed third-party APIs. This kind of relates on the natively calling Microsoft Graph access because they piggyback on the same functionality. So basically what it means is that you can securely call a third-party web API, which has been secured using Azure AD. So that's that's kind of a similar capability as calling Microsoft Graph API, but you're calling your third-party custom API. And that's a that's just been like the holy grail, and I've been waiting for this capability to go live since we started planning that, because that's really the beauty of using SharePoint Online and SharePoint Framework as the UI, and then put the business logic in Azure Function or a web API, and then call stuff in on-premises or whatever securely without any problems of anybody accessing on that pipeline. Now, the third one here is a really big one as well. So tenant-wide deployment of extensions, and this has been demoed quite a few times in our call. Potentially, I'll demo all of this in next monthly call, which is on next Tuesday. But on this one is that you're able to basically enable SharePoint Framework extensions, so application customizers and list view commandlets globally within a tenant from one single location. So you're able to say that, hey, this footer or this header, as an example, or these buttons should be available in every single document library in this tenant from this moment forward. And that applies to old sites and new sites, so it doesn't really matter if the site is created is it a new site which is created, or is it an old site which is already existing in a site. Good. More on the 1.6. On, like mentioned, all of these things. I will potentially show all of this if there's a demand for it on next monthly community or on next Tuesday. We have other cool stuff also queued up for the monthly community call related on open source and SPFx stuff as well. Now, a few other things. I don't want to eat too much time on today on this one, because this is the non-SPFx community call. Just a quick look on the roadmap. So 1.7 of the SharePoint framework is really the next one on the SharePoint framework side. And there's quite a lot of things which we're planning to get in there. This isn't a promise. It might be that it's not actually, and not all of these things will be available there. But we're looking into have a dynamic data general availability. This is the component-to-component communications. SharePoint 2019 Yeoman support. It's already implemented, but it missed the train for 1.6. Preview of SPFx built Teams tab is coming out on this 1.7 version. Preview of Teams apps in SharePoint Online. So vice versa, not just SharePoint applications in Teams, but also Teams applications in SharePoint Online. So that's coming as well. We also talked about having support of React 16. So that's coming there. Webpack 4 support, newer version of Office UI Fabric is coming there as well. Preview of Socket.io. And preview of isolated web parts. So this is a really cool capability which we talked about actually in SPC, so in North America earlier this year, but we haven't really covered what it means in practice. So we're looking into implementing this capability where if you as a tenant administrator, it feels bad for you to run the JavaScript in the same context of the page. So you are able to then say, well, this web part, isolate that. And it falls on this isolated iframe, so it can be securely executed on a page without that web part getting access on the actual DOM structure of the page. So that's additional security layer on things. So we talked about, actually, we mentioned this originally in SPC North America, but I know that not many of you were able to be there, so clarifying that pipeline as well. Numerous obviously UI level improvements. There will be improvements in theming, site design, site scripts, additional placeholders, a lot of stuff in the pipeline. A lot of this stuff can still change. There will be SharePoint 2019 GA is happening later this autumn, and that's going to support modern experiences. So modern lists, modern pages, and all of that. Well, it's going to be SharePoint Framework 1.4 kind of, which is supported in the GA of SharePoint 2019. Everything what is seen on the slide is subject to change, so let's be really, really clear. This is early plans, but we want to give you insights of what are we planning to do. So there's plenty of stuff in pipeline, and there's plenty of stuff for 1.6 and 1.9, and maybe we'll then jump to 2.0, I don't know, or maybe it's a 1.10 at that point. But there's plenty of plans what's going to happen during this fiscal year and the next one and the next one. So looking really, really interesting. Now, Raymond is saying, what about header and footer content place areas? They do exist. So there is a placeholders already, but we're adding, planning to have more. So right now the footer content placeholder is a floating one, so it's not part of the content. So we're looking into having a content placeholder rather than a floating placeholder. When? We'll see. So, and the Webpack 4 support should be coming in 1.7. Yes, I can't promise that due many reasons, but we will hopefully get the Webpack 4 support in 1.7. And right now the 1.7 timeline seems to be that it's in October 2018. Again, timelines might change, content might change, but we're looking into making this happen. Good. Cool. Moving on slides, few slides before we go to the actual demo. So a few kind of reminders. Earlier this week, we announced the August version or August release of SISM for SharePoint Online. So this is 16.1.8029. This actually contains quite a lot of APIs which we haven't documented. We haven't told what they actually mean because we're going to announce some capabilities in the Ignite. But due to logistics reasons, we need to actually get the SISM out before we can actually do stuff and announce stuff in Ignite. So I'm not going to deep dive what's actually available there from that perspective. Now, the second really big thing, not necessarily for developers as such, but for a overall from a SharePoint perspective, is the fact that we are actually now releasing the SharePoint Online Management Shell also from a PowerShell Gallery. So you don't have to install an MSI because that was really awkward. So you needed to always uninstall the existing MSI and SharePoint Online Management Shell, and then you were installing the new version in, and that was kind of a painful around this from maintainability perspective. Now I'm going to do a quick demo what this means in practice, just to show you how easy it is to actually use that. Thank you, Thomas, on the finally comment. In the long run, we are having discussions obviously on combining SharePoint Online Management Shell together with PnP PowerShell because it just makes sense to do so. Now, so for time being, these two things are two separate things due to logistical reasons mainly, and SharePoint Online Management Shell is maintained by engineering, and we're adding additional things from an engineering perspective, but then PnP PowerShell is typically matching quite often the administrative operations as what SharePoint Online Management Shell is having, and then additional things on the site level. The long-term plan is absolutely to combine these, so we will have one really huge combined set of commandlets which work in the admin level, also in a site level, and you're able to do smart things and increase your productivity by using that set of PowerShells. So for now, two separate things still, but there is an ongoing discussions that this will happen. It will be, we need to first go to the PowerShell Core and .NET Standard and .NET Core version of CSUM and PowerShell, and then after that we'll start thinking how do we merge these things together. It is not actually technical challenge, it is a logistics challenge on how do we maintain them in an easy way in the future. So how do we make that happen? Good. Me talking a lot. Before we go to the actual demos, one step back, let me actually jump and share my screen and show what this one actually means in practice. So let me hide everything else from my screen, and let me actually share my screen. And after that, we'll jump on Paolo, if I remember correctly. So just quickly showing what this means in practice. So let me actually also show the PowerShell Gallery, and somebody needs to tell me whenever the PowerShell Gallery is visible for you in the call.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm using the PowerShell Gallery, the preview of the new PowerShell Gallery UI. I'm not sure how to actually get to the back UI, so it might look slightly different for you. But if we search for, I'm going to actually just copy that, Microsoft Online SharePoint PowerShell from here, you can actually find that package. We released this on Monday, and there's 500 downloads, 590 downloads, so it's catching pretty nicely. You can actually see what is the install module command, so we can easily take that one into use as well. So what it means is that if I run in my side, if I do get module and list, well, let's actually do this. If I do connect SPO service, there's nothing available. It doesn't find the commandlet. And if I do let's see, there we go. If I'm trying to find the module, it doesn't exist on my machine right now, so it is not available in my machine. So I can then run a PowerShell command. Let me go back on the page. Let me copy that one, put it in there. It's going to be install module. Maybe one thing to notice, you need to be in the administrative mode, so you're able to do this, but this then basically downloads the needed assemblies to be available. That was fast. And 1, 2, 3, come on, you can do it. Dun, 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 dun. It's going to take a few seconds to everything to refresh, and there we go. And now if I do connect SP service, it's going to ask me the URL. Where do I actually want to connect? So let me actually go to here as an example, one of the tenants which I'm using quite commonly. So SPFx on Microsoft.com. And then everybody knows my password. No, just kidding. So let's write that one. And now I'm in, and now I can actually do get SPO tenant. So really easy way then to install the module, get the module to any machine, and also then you can upgrade the module using the module commands as well. So super powerful. Right now we only have one version available. Whenever we release the next version of PowerShell, it will be then a new version, and you're able to run an upgrade module command, and you basically then have the latest version available. So pretty cool functionality. Now from a thank you, David, from a documentation perspective, I had that one in here as well. So so the documentation is in here. For some reasons I need to double check this one. The video isn't actually visible here, but it actually tells how to get started on SharePoint Online Management Shell. The video should be in here. I need to figure out why it's not actually visible. But we also have a PowerShell, a video, 5-minute video showing exactly the same steps, pretty much what I did today, and explaining the options, what does it actually mean in practice, and how to get started on this one. So super simple thing, but actually something which should have been there for quite a long time. So I think it's fair for people saying that, well, it is about time to get it available. So it is what it is. Better late than never, right? Good. I think we are ready to move forward from here. So Paolo, there's no point for me to share the slides at this point, so shouldn't we actually jump on your screen and you can actually start talking about the end-to-end tenant scoped provisioning models, right? Paolo.
Right, here I am. Sorry.
Yes. Okay. And then you're gone. That was fast. We heard you for 1 second and then you went away. Now, Paolo, you're sharing the screen. But oh, there we go. Now we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Cool. So, yes, thank you, Vesa. And let me share with the community what we have been working in the last couple of months almost. First of all, we are going to release a new schema version, which will be the 2018-07, so the one of July, even if it will come out in September, but who cares? And this will be the new schema that we will use to do and to make it possible to make tenant-wide provisioning of solutions based on hierarchy of sites. That's the main new feature that we will support with the engine. So,
and sorry, Paolo, I do apologize. Now, what does the tenant scope wide provisioning actually means? It means that you can have one PnP template which actually provisions site collections, sites in a site collection, taxonomies, site designs, site script, and it's still a single file, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going to show right now. In fact, yes. Using the new schema, we can not only define a single provisioning template for a single target site or site collection, which has to already exist as it is right now with the currently released version of the schema and of the engine. But what it will be possible with the new schema and with the new capabilities of the engine will be to create a hierarchy of site collection and sites eventually connected under the same site hub, and we will be able to apply one or more provisioning templates at once with a unique XML or .pnp file, just with one command, just with one step of provisioning. So I think it's a huge leap ahead from a provisioning engine perspective, because we will make it possible for you as community members, as partners, as developers to release full solutions based on multiple sites, having the capability to create those sites and to apply the provisioning template on top of those sites just created using a unique design model, a unique template. From an XML and from a provisioning template perspective, even if you will not have to write everything manually through XML, but just to let you know what you can do if you want to manually use the provisioning template, I will show you what we can do right now with the new schema. So, aside from the already existing content like the preferences, the locations, and the tenant settings that we introduced a few months ago, we can now define, as it was before, a collection of templates, which can be templates defined inside of the current template file, or can be a reference to an external file. And this was already there in the previous version of the schema. But you can also define one or more sequence elements. So we are used to saying that we now support sequences. So if you will listen to any of us saying sequences, we are referring to this new element in the schema. And the sequence, which actually, to be fair, was already defined at schema level but not supported at the engine level, allows us to create or to define a hierarchy of site collections. As you can see here, we have in this sample file one site collection, which will be a modern communication site. You can argue that through this attribute, and we can define what is who will be the owner, what is the site design that we will use if we want to apply a specific site design to the communication site, and so on and so forth. And then we say also, when you create the site, please apply this specific template to that site. And we have a reference to a template which can be defined within the same file in which I am, or can be imported from an external provisioning template file. And whenever we create a site collection, we can also define a hierarchy of sub-sites inside that site collection, which can be at multiple levels. So we can have a custom depth of the hierarchy. And here, for example, we have one sub-site with two more sub-sites inside of it. And we can do that to create not only communication sites, but also modern team sites and modern team sites with no group, the STS-3, also known as STS-3 site template. So using this approach, you will be able to provision a hierarchy of site collection and sites and apply templates on top of them. And if you need to rely on the taxonomy, still at the sequence level, you can also provision the term groups that you will need in the new sequence. So you have the capability to define a full solution through a unique provisioning template file. We still support, and we are still, and of course, backward compatible with the easier solution of having just one provisioning template applied to an already existing site. But if you want to think ahead and start thinking about bigger solutions, now, with this new capability, you will be able to do that. And I think it is really powerful. From a developer perspective, on the other side, if you want to play with this new capability, you will have a new object type called provisioning hierarchy, which you can use to have an in-memory access to all the information that we have at the XML schema level. So we have an hierarchy which can provide access to a collection of sequences or to a collection of templates. Every single sequence is made of site collections, which are made of sites, and so on and so forth. So from a developer perspective, if you want to do everything in .NET code, you will be able to create your in-memory sequence and your in-memory hierarchy, and you will be able to apply it onto a target tenant. But we all know that in the SharePoint PnP community, we all love PowerShell. And that's why my buddy Erwin will show you how to play with this new stuff from a PowerShell perspective. And I think it's time for you, Erwin, to share your screen and show how to play with these hierarchies using PowerShell and .NET code.
Yep,
So,
sure.
While you're Irvin setting up and sharing that, one thing what we chatted on the iron window, the sequences do support also solution files to get inside of the PnP file, right? So we're able to package the whole solution, including customizations, inside of a one PnP file.
yes, we do support packages at the provisioning template level since I think 3 or 4 months ago, so they are still supported. So yes, you can have a full provisioning hierarchy which will install an SPFx file at the tenant level, and then you will be able to use that package in any of the sites collection or site that you want to create using the sequence. So yeah.
And then the second question which we had there was around, hey, but Azure Function has a 10-minute timeout. What would it mean if this takes longer than 10 minutes? Which is true. If you have a complex template, it can take more than 10 minutes to apply that, even though creation of site collections is super fast nowadays. Should I answer this question, or should you? What's the solution for 10 minutes timeout?
Well, one solution is still to, let me say, fall back to an Azure Web Job, for example. And by using an Azure Web Job, you can have a longer process to execute. Or another solution could be to split some of the steps so that you can have a better solution which relies on multiple steps. Or if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not the Azure Function guru here, you can even go over the 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, but correct me if I'm wrong, Vesa. There should be a way to have longer running functions, even if you will have to pay a little bit more, if I'm not mistaken.
Of course, because I'm the Microsoft guy, I should know all of this stuff. But
yeah, of course.
Anything
That's
on
your job. You're a Microsoft guy. You have an answer for everything.
Indeed.
Ask me anything. You know that.
Sure. Oh, I can't wait to Ignite. Now, and the questions. Okay, so the story is obviously that if there is timeouts, like in the typical Azure website, it has a timeout of 1 minute, and that's why you need to use Azure Function. You need to use async models. If the 10 minutes timeout is a problem for you, depending on your template site, then you can go to the web jobs, and there are multiple other options as well. Again, or like chatted in the iron window. Thank you, Eric, for example, on that one, you can split your template to multiple templates. So there's multiple options. So what we want to do with this one is really the fact that you can have a one file which defines the whole solution, which even though it might be multiple site collections. And in the automation scenarios, which we're planning to do and show in Ignite, and it's going to be hopefully super cool, we're using Azure web jobs to avoid certain timeouts. But Irvin, I think it's better to jump to your side, and you can actually play around and show how the in-memory handling of these templates work in a PowerShell. And obviously,
Yep.
Like anything in PnP provisioning, it works in C#, it works in PowerShell. Somebody might be asking that, does this stuff works in a JavaScript? Answer is unfortunately no, because many of these APIs are only available in CSOM, even though theoretically you could mimic CSOM calls in JavaScript, but it gets complicated. But anyway.
So right on the screen here, I have a sort of a simplified version of the template that Paolo just showed that I'm going to use for demo reasons. You see a couple of parameters that they define: the Office 365 tenant name, which is my tenant, the company name, some prefix. Then here is the template section. And here I have a very simple template that effectively only provisions a list, being the company name dash projects. So Contoso Inc. dash projects when being provisioned. Nothing else, but this is just a normal PnP provisioning template, so you can put anything in there, but you already have in your own templates. And then here the new things happen. So here the sequence. Here I have a site collection, and I create a site collection with this specific URL /sites PnP SIG demo and the date, just to make sure that we're unique. And then here I reference the templates. So this is a collection. I can actually reference multiple templates for a site collection. So you can say, okay, I create this site collection, and then I apply this template and that template and that template to the site collection, allowing you to sort of split up your organization a bit of templates. Right now, I'm only, only applying a single template to it. Then I create a subsite here.
being the team subsite node group, which is STS has 3, and that one will have a name being the site prefix. That's another parameter being demo1. So then scrolling down here a bit more, I will create another team site. It's basically a site collection, but in this case it will be a modern team site. And then because I can, I will also provision some terms here. So this is a very simple template, and if we switch to PowerShell, I'll first show you applying this template. So the easiest way would be just to say apply PnP provisioning, and now comes a little change. It's provisioning hierarchy. So not provisioning template, that's still the old school commandlet that uses the normal provisioning templates. It's provisioning hierarchy. And then you can say path, and I say my file, and this is the 2018-07 XML file. Press enter, and little caveat, this is very early code, so it might fail. We'll see how it goes. It's provisioning the term groups, and I also know that right now the feedback you get in the UI or the progress bar is not really up to the levels that I want it in, so it will be changing. But here you'll see that we're creating the communication site at that specific URL. That shouldn't take long. And when it's done, it will apply the template to that specific site collection.
Now, Erwin, while it's doing that, it's a great way of always starting a demo saying, well, it might be that this doesn't actually work, so I do apologize. So.
Yeah, well, this is, I mean, I have to admit, like an hour ago, I was still coding on this. So
yeah,
it's
fair fine.
Fine. So don't expect this to be there next month.
It's the next monthly release for PnP happens on Friday weekend, so we can't get this one on the next release, but it will be there on the October release. So.
Yes.
And this, the work what Paula and Erwin are doing here is a pre-requirement for something slightly even super cooler, which we're going to show in Ignite. So I think this is looking promising. But after Ignite, this should be then available for everybody. And on the Ignite, while we're waiting this to provision as well, so right after Ignite, there's the PnP weekly community call on the next following Thursday after Ignite week. So I promised to do a live demo of pretty much everything what we demonstrated in Ignite. So we will cover every single relevant SharePoint dev topic, hopefully, which we announced in Ignite in that particular 1 month weekly call. So
exactly. So it's almost done. Now it's finished, and no errors, so that's a good thing, I would say. Yeah. So if we go to my browser, and I just make sure that I copy this URL there, I take that, no, not that, yeah, that one. Take this URL here, and navigate to this site without a double slash here, and press enter. There we go. There is my site, and there you see my list that I just provisioned to it. And if I go to site contents, you will notice that if it opens, I've seen this happening before, that it takes a while to realize that you can actually navigate to site contents. So that's reloading.
You're just using it wrong, so okay.
Exactly. There's a subsite. And if I click on the subsite, there we have a modern subsite without a Office 365 group. So it provisioned everything. So this would be the easiest way for you to use. You create a template in XML and you apply it with apply PnP for provisioning hierarchy. We will release quite a bunch of other commandlets too. That allow you to create things.
I do apologize. I need to address Tom's question, making sure that people don't get this in a wrong way, because even though Paolo answered that, the question was, is this mainly then designed for a subsite of a site collection? And the answer is no. This is actually mainly designed for provisioning multiple site collections in your tenant, because absolutely the same recommendation still applies. What we say from a Microsoft engineering perspective, which says try to avoid subsites, use subsites only when it actually makes sense. If possible, use hub sites and associate the new site collections to it. And you can actually do that automatically using PowerShell, using this templating model as well. Hub before sub, yes, indeed.
Yep. And the question from Leo, if the command is available now, no, it is not. It will also not be available in. No, exactly. It will be available. Think of after Ignite timeframe that we will make this available. So there's a bunch of other commandlets. I will not go into all the nitty-gritty details in what they do, but they allow you to, for instance, if I say hierarchy is new PnP provisioning hierarchy, and now we're creating this hierarchy in memory, and this allows you to also say, I can create a sequence. I can say new PnP provisioning hierarchy sequence. Now I have a sequence in there, and I can say add PnP provisioning sequence to my hierarchy. And this is how I can build up my hierarchy, and I can add site collections to it, and I can add templates to it, and I can add references to templates, to site collections, etc., etc., etc. So there will be a whole bunch, think of 20, 30 commandlets, maybe in that range, we will provide that allow you to do the whole build-up of the provisioning engine. So the provisioning template or the provisioning hierarchy from PowerShell directly. What will allow you to do this is that you build up this object like this, and then you are able to save it as a PnP file. And we will save the whole thing into this binary format. It's actually a zipped file, but we will save that file for you in a PnP file format. There will be an equivalent command also that allows you to read an XML file, so a PnP hierarchy template, provisioning template hierarchy, read it into memory. So you have the memory object here, and then you can save it as a PnP file, allowing you to do some conversion. So you have a single package with everything. There's a good question from Matti about get PnP provisioning hierarchy. Currently, no, we're not looking in that right now. It might happen in the future, but for now, extracting a hierarchy will be a bit of a problem because we will have to make a lot of assumptions when we do that. What to call the template, what the template refers to, etc., etc. Will you get duplicate templates? You will potentially say if you extract 5 sites into a hierarchy, and the sites are all the same, then we will have to do checks if the template extracted from site A is the same as site B. What do we do there? It's a bit of a more complex story. So for now, no.
Now, if I can add, sorry, Risa. If I can add something, not mentioning the fact that if you have quite a busy tenant, it wouldn't be really easy and simple to extract everything from that tenant, or to make it possible for you to select which site collection you want to extract from a live tenant and which you don't want to extract. So it's quite a challenge to make it possible to get the full hierarchy out of a tenant.
Yeah, and it's not about getting the full hierarchy in the first place. Obviously, you can using these PowerShell commandlets, which Erwin is showing in here, you're able to extract templates from the existing sites. You're able to associate those templates inside of the memory stream, which is then the tenant level provisioning template, and then you're able to serialize eventually that one. So it's a combination, obviously, then of multiple PowerShell commands which you would be executing and building the template, and then you serialize. So.
Yes, yeah. And to comment, the comment from Tom here said this is an alternative to new PnP site. Effectively, new PnP site and that provisioning engine is using the same code behind the scenes. So yeah, you could think of this as an alternative to PnP site. Yeah.
Yeah. Creating a sequence template with a new site collection element, and then saying apply this to the tenant level, it's going to create the site collection. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
Cool.
So keep an eye on Ignite. After Ignite, we will have something here for you.
Yeah, or drop by in our combined SharePoint Framework and PnP booth. So Erwin, me, Paolo, Elio, Luca, Pat Miller will be in that booth during the Ignite if you are in Ignite, and we'll show you more on the stuff. And in October release of PnP, this is meant to be hopefully prime time. It's just a matter of actually doing proper testing, so we don't compromise anything with this new functionality. I think we are then ready to go, and let's actually jump directly to Sean Squires, who's on the call as well. So I just promoted Sean as a presenter. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Bessa. Good morning, everyone.
It's such a long time again when we're chatting. It was like just before you went to sleep or something. Anyway. But welcome. So Sean is here to actually show to cover the fact that we are able to now associate a site design or a site script to be applied whenever a site is getting associated to a hub site, right?
Yes. Sorry, hold on. I just want to make sure I'm getting the right screen here.
Yeah, classic story of having too many screens. So I've heard that increasing the amount of screens will impact positively on productivity. So I have 7 screens on my table. So am I?
Yeah, I can't even do what you're doing, man. That's just crazy. All right, I'm just gonna do this. Can everyone see the SharePoint window that I'm putting down there?
All good.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. So I'm sorry, Bessa. You were saying? I think you were doing a quick intro, or I can.
Yes, feel free to explain. It's your feature in the end, so.
Yeah, and unfortunately, guys, so the good news, good morning, I am here, hello. The bad news, in our mad rush to get all sorts of cool goodness into the tenants that we will be using at Ignite in 2 weeks, we broke this environment last night. So I feel like I've said that before, so I apologize. I'm still going to try and walk you through as much as I can, just to give you a heads up. And I know this might be shocking to believe, but despite broken environment, we're actually going to start rolling this feature out very, very soon. In fact, it'll start rolling before Ignite. So what am I talking about? This is actually something we first announced at SharePoint conference in May. And this is a new entry point for, or rather a new use case for site designs. So if you have a published site design in your tenant, you have the ability to essentially associate it with a hub. And then any site that joins that hub, that site design will get applied to it. In this case, synchronously with the other join gestures that are doing things like applying the hub theme to the join site and making the news content association. So some of the other hub settings that need to happen with that relationship being established. We're looking at some other ways to sort of offset that so that we can support larger site scripts and designs in the future. But the intent really is to just kind of extend to another scenario that opportunity to leverage a site design and make sure that you get consistent configuration and settings applied to those associated sites that are joining that hub. So what this looks like, real quickly, I did 2 things here. The first is you'll see here that I have a hub, and I've already set up this hub. And in fact, you'll see that I've also given it an emphasis, which I'll do a quick shout out because I own that feature as well. That is rolling out the door as well. So this is a new theming, branding option that we are releasing, and we'll be building out more and more over the coming quarter. But this is the ability to add emphasis to your header, a color emphasis to your header, using the primary color. We're also going to be announcing a couple of other additions here at Ignite in a few weeks. But what's cool, the reason why I call this out is because this will actually get this emphasis and theming, just like the theme gets carried through to any joined site, the other branding elements like this header emphasis will also be carried through to the joined sites as well. So real quickly, you'll see here under hub site settings, and I apologize, the environment's a little slow, that's a little bit better. You'll see we have a new option in the hub site settings panel, and it's site design applied to associated sites. And you'll see here that it provides a picker, and what this picker is showing is all of the published site designs that are on this environment. Obviously, a question that folks will probably ask is, wow, aren't those the same site designs that would show up in the self-site provisioning flow? And the answer is yes, if you want them to. Don't forget that we have an option where you can scope site designs. So one thing that we are recommending is if you have a hub-specific site design that you don't really want made broadly available through, say, self-service site creation, what you can do is actually scope that site design so it'll still show up to the administrator here when they're doing the setup and the association, but it won't show up in that other affordance. And I will also talk about in a couple weeks, we're looking at some other ways to sort of distribute the creation and storage of site designs to make that experience a little bit easier to manage so you don't have to always remember to scope stuff. Okay, so I have this no site design is currently applied because I am on a call with a bunch of devs. I just wanted to let you guys know. We also have made an amendment here to the CSOM and PowerShell. So here is the set SPO hub site commandlet, and you'll see that we have a new parameter here for site design ID. So what that allows me to do is I'm actually passing in the ID of this hub site that is on the browser window, and also passing in a site design ID. And if I go ahead and hit enter, oops, do I have focus? Maybe I lost focus. Make sure, oh, did that do it? I think it did. There we go. Okay, so now what I've done is I've essentially just updated the hub site settings. So if we go ahead and close this and reopen it, you'll see that I have now associated a site design to this hub. So I want to go ahead and save that. And the thing that unfortunately is not working that we broke last night, my apologies, is what would happen is if you go to a site that you want to join a hub, you will see here when you go into the site information panel, the hub site association. If I were to go through here, I can go ahead and pick this hub that I want to join. And what will happen is when I join it, not only will this joining site pick up the hub site's nav, the theme, and as well as those other establishments, for syncing news, but you will also get the site design, and the site design will actually execute against this site synchronously. And let's just try it. No, unfortunately, I'm sorry, this is still broken. I was hoping it might have been an environmental thing, but somebody reported last night that there was a problem. So what would happen is, in this case, I associated this with an SPC travel guide, and so it would just do the similar thing that you would expect. Here's a site that I joined previously. Notice that the header emphasis carried through. There's that new travel journals list, which was applied via the site design. So this is a new capability we're very excited about, just to sort of give more flexibility and to the use of site designs, as well as to just make hubs that much more powerful and richer as an experience. So looking forward to getting this out to you guys soon. Yeah.
So a few questions which I would be asking as a community member as well. But now, so just reiterating what you're saying, this is basically an execute my code when another site is associated to the hub. So basically, this is almost like a create a subsite to the hub, which is actually a site collection, but then execute my code as part of that, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Great distinction. Yeah. This is those sites that I just joined are in fact site collections, and that's one of the beautiful things about the Hub Site Association. It's a very loose coupling, and I will add, since you brought that up, Vesa, just to again stay consistent with the principles that we've established with site designs. They are currently additive. So that means that if, strangely, if you had a scenario where you had a site, you joined it to Hub 1, and then unjoined and went to Hub 2, and both of those had two different site designs associated with them, they would both be applied. So the first one would run, obviously, then later on when you join the other hub, it's not like we remove the settings of the other site design. They stay there, and the other one would be added.
Yeah. And then there's the obvious follow-up question, which Raymond also asked on the Iron window. So we can obviously run also Flow as part of these site designs as well.
Oh yeah, these are everything that you guys know and have come to love and expect with site designs and the associated scripts and actions. They can all just now be essentially associated with that gesture of joining a site to a hub.
Yeah. And David is commenting around the unassociate event. I think it is a worthwhile, actually, when I think of it. So, sure, it is an additive functionality, but sooner or later, if you have certain things which you want to, or associations or settings in a site level which you want to get rid of, if you get unassociated to a hub, maybe we'll add a unassociated event at some point, but one step at a time, right, Bert? Sean? Sorry.
That's right. Yes. And hey, real quickly, I wanted to go back. There was a comment I saw up here by Ravi. Yeah, the 100 limit, that number 100 actually applies to the number of hub sites we currently support in a tenant, not the number of sites that can be joined to a hub.
Yeah.
Right now, that number is probably more than you would ever need.
Whatever the number is, is it hard-coded somewhere?
Well, I'm sure that there's a limit somewhere in the code in SQL, but yeah, it's you could join 10,000 sites, as far as I know, to a hub, and all would be good. So yeah. Cool. You might have a really hideous nav if you did something interesting with a PnP solution to add those sites to the nav, but that's your call.
Makes sense.
Any other questions? By Ignite, what else? Sorry, Paula, what was that?
Yeah, Paula is asking what else is by Ignite.
Oh, there's all sorts of things. I'm actually really glad. So I shouldn't tell you this, but there was actually a couple of little things on that environment that I was just showing that we are bringing to Ignite. So I'm glad nobody noticed.
I think actually it's that somebody asked around that certain things in that environment already. So we don't mention what we saw, so that's fine. The environment what you were seeing was actually our eDoc, so that is actually updated day-to-day basis with the latest code from our code base. It's actually multiple times in a day. So that's always a risky thing to show in the calls, right?
That's right, yes. But, we're among friends, and we're very excited to show all this stuff to you guys. And, like I said, just to make a plug, I know a bunch of us are going to be at Ignite, and I hope you all are too. And if you're not, we will be sharing a whole bunch of stuff at Ignite and releasing soon thereafter. But everything that I have here will be starting to go out to targeted release actually by the end of the week, I believe, and should be fairly rolled out by early October.
Yeah, and I promised already that I'll do a quick demo of everything from a SharePoint Dev Plat perspective the week after Ignite. So if you will, Sean, actually join me on that call, you can do your stuff, the theming and all stuff.
Yeah.
So we can balance out slightly who's doing what. So that would be helpful.
Awesome.
Because not that many people can actually join the Ignite. Ignite is fully booked already, so all good.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, well, it's a positive thing that it's fully booked, because that means that we will have another Ignite at least in a year. So rather this one. Everything is getting recorded from Ignite anyway, so that's a good thing.
There we go.
And especially on the dev side, we want to be as transparent as possible. So everybody, because like Sean said, we are among friends. So you will know immediately when possible what's actually possible and what is supported.
Yeah.
Cool. I
right.
think we're running out of time. If there's any immediate, really critical questions, we actually have 2 minutes time for Q&A this time. This is insane. So I think we have our closest 125 closest friends.
Nice.
Plus the persons who are watching the recording, but let's not mention that. There's a question from David around the tenant scope feature in 1.6. If you are using site collection specific app catalog, does a list get created there too? Answer is no. So the tenant scope feature, tenant scope wide deployment of extensions only is supported in a tenant level. So you cannot actually, what David is looking for is to make sure that every single subsite in site collection would have the same extension available by default without any other things. Most likely that's the scenario what you're looking for. Right now that's not unfortunately supported. I'm moving to a 2010 tenant to SP Online. Should I use site design, CSM, something else? I'm not going to do it by hand. So for Steven's question, if you are moving actual content, there is an out-of-the-box migration API available. There is a documentation in the dev documentation. There's quite often, it really depends again, what do you have on the existing SharePoint 2010 on-premises environment. If you have fully customized site designs and site things, it might actually get highly complicated, and that's when you want to look ISV partners like ShareKate. If you're only looking to get files in and files move to the other side, that's a relatively simple thing to do. So, but we don't really have humongous amount of migration guidance content, unfortunately, right now, at least in the dev docs. But there is a migration API though, so you might want to have a look on that.
Cool.
Everybody,
excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry.
No, you need to go to another meeting.
Thank you for the time. Thanks, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions through Twitter or through Vesa, and I hope to see as many as I can later this month. I got to run.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
All right, thanks, everyone.
I'm going to answer on the one question from Steven, which is around, should I go through SharePoint 2013 if I'm moving from 2010 to the SharePoint Online? Answer is actually no. It doesn't give you that much additional value, because sure, the UI will get slightly closer potentially as in SharePoint Online, but on the other hand, in SharePoint Online, it's a modern UI. And in SharePoint 2013, the UI is classic. So if you're looking just moving content, files, and that kind of stuff, moving between to later versions from 2010 to 2013 before you go to SharePoint Online doesn't actually give you that much additional value. And well, that's a fair point from Raymond. The Microsoft Migration UI tool doesn't work with SharePoint 2010. Again, really depends on details on the migration case, and that is the migration is one of those things. To be fully honest, I try to stay away from migration cases for my whole career with SharePoint because they are so complex. So, can you answer Ignite videos real quickly? Did I miss that one? The Ignite videos will be streamed live. I'm not sure if they will be streamed live. They will be absolutely, the videos will be posted. There it is. Are the posting videos from Ignite Online this year's? Yes, the videos will be available from Ignite this year as well. So we are recording the videos. They will be available typically within a few days later than the session. Now, whatever we announce in Ignite, whatever we do in Ignite, there should be blog posts, social media tags, everything else, so you are able to follow up on what's happening there. So all good. But I think that's it. 2 minutes over on the top of the hour. Thank you for this one. Hopefully you find the content relevant. If you have good ideas on what we should be covering, if you want to do a demo, please let us know. Let's be interactive in social media. And thank you for reporting stuff. Thank you for finding issues and reporting issues. And let's keep on rocking. It is a journey which we work together in the cloud as well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Paolo. Thank you, Irvin, for the demos. Sean already left. We'll see you latest on next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.